everyone, and welcome to week 5. This week we're going to focus on the assignments that are due and what you need to do to be successful in terms of them. So the core competencies and weekly objectives for this week. You want to be able to evaluate and identify appropriate remedies based on business strategy, develop skills to address significant organizational change through organizational communication and implementation. And the weekly objectives are to be able to compare and contrast the 4 types of interventions for changing organizations from the outside, examine how emotional intelligence impacts leadership and other things within an organization, and to explore how energy guides intervention at all organizational levels. Please do note that if you go into the week number 5 module and look at the week overview, you'll find the reading assignments in there that correspond with the core competency and weekly objectives. So this week you have 2 different things due. One is a discussion. The first thing that you need to do in the discussion is, there's a couple of different questions within it. But let's look at it from the kind of the 10,000 foot view. You want to be able to identify and evaluate appropriate remedies based on business strategy. So through the reading, you're going to learn about some of those different remedies and learn how to, based on the strategy of the business, know which remedies are the most appropriate. So you will need to have completed the reading in order to understand what you need to complete for the discussion. The other thing you're going to be doing is developing skills to address significant organizational change through organizational communication and implementation. So what does that actually mean? So within an organization, in order to drive change, we know that you have to be able to successfully communicate and implement plans. And there's specific sets of skills that help you in reaching that objective. And so you'll find those as well in the reading. So based on that, you're going to reflect on the readings to answer one of the 2 discussion questions and to respond to at least 2 of your peers. So the 2 discussion questions, you only need to answer one of them. The first one focuses on the 4 types of interventions. So this is looking at the 4 different types of interventions that OD practitioners find helpful. So there's a number of different intervention methods, and they span a continuum of complexity, requiring practitioners to understand a lot of different things and possess quite a few different skills and attitudes. So this is something that's fairly new in the OD field, and so it can often contrast with some of the traditional OD theory. So you're going to compare and contrast at least 2 of the 4 different types of interventions and discuss the external pressures to bear on the internal dynamics and policies of organizations essential to a particular social change. So basically, in a nutshell, although this is fairly wordy, what I want you to do is look at the 4 types of interventions, take 2 of them, compare and contrast them, and talk about how they actually impact different types of social change. The second question that is also available to you to answer, remember you only need to answer one of them, is on emotional intelligence and how does a person's emotional competence affect their leadership. Also, how does it affect other people and the emotional reality of the organization. So in this question, emotional intelligence really gets into how capable a person is of handling the different things that can be thrown at them. How do they deal with stress? How do they deal with tough situations? And how does that impact their emotions? And emotions definitely play a role in leadership and leadership skills, as well as how other people will receive your leadership. So what you want to do here, if you decide to answer this question, is tell me what emotional intelligence is and how it affects leadership, but then also give an example and support it with either an article or a video. If you can't find If you can't find an article or a video, a really good personal example would even help if you want to relate this back to your own work experience. That would also, I would be happy to accept that as well. Okay, continuing on, we have our weekly assignment. With this assignment, you're going to evaluate and identify appropriate remedies, and you're once again going to develop skills to address significant organizational change through communication and implementation. And this assignment has two parts. The first part is that you're going to actually create a PowerPoint presentation with a voiceover where you're going to present your simulation results to the class. And your presentation should address the following things. You want to explain the organization's motivation for change, and you can find that in the foreground reading. You're going to describe the scenario or the change out strategy that was allocated for your simulation. So all of you were originally assigned a scenario, but now you've each also had all of them opened up to you. So please choose the scenario in which you connected with the most and talk about your character in that scenario. What was their motivation? What were they hoping to achieve? Then you're going to talk about your results. Now, please note here that your results don't have to mean that you were successful in implementing your change. Many of you have had questions about the simulations and kind of been a little bit down about the fact that you didn't do as well on them as you had hoped. But in terms of a simulation, doing well is sort of relative. The point of the simulation is really to learn and to get experience out of it, not so much to be focused on just the end result. So regardless of what your results were, whether you were able to be successful or not, it still impacts your learning experience about how to implement change. So don't be afraid to share those results. Your PowerPoint should be between 7 and 12 slides. It must have a voiceover, and you're going to want to post it in our Week 5 discussion section. The second part of our assignment is going to be after viewing your peers' presentations to respond in the discussion and address the following things. So you want to respond to at least one of your peers' presentations and answer some questions about that. You're going to compare your results to your chosen peer's presentation, and you want to talk through whether you were more or less successful than the other student in the scenario. You know, what seemed to work, what didn't. Were there any common missteps? Did you take any time to diagnose and strategize before you actually made decisions? And what levers did you find yourself using first? And what levers did you decide to do later? You know, this assignment, don't overthink it. Talk about the simulation, talk about your experience with it, and really try to reflect upon that experience to the best of your ability. If you have any questions regarding the assignment or the discussion question, please let me know. But again, the discussion question for this week is really based on the assigned reading for week 5, and the assignment is really based on your reflection on the simulations. Some useful tips. In order to be successful in the second part and earn a good grade, please state each question first and then answer the question. It really does help me when I go through to grade them to have the question there so that I'm sure that you're answering the right question and that I know what question you're actually addressing. Please write a minimum of 5 sentences for each question. 1 sentence answers does not meet expectations. You know, you guys need to be reflecting on the material and providing a substantive response. Okay, that ends the guidelines for this week. Please, as we're getting towards the end of the course and kind of getting into our second to last week here, it's really important to focus on the assignment. Make sure you're doing your reflections on the simulations. And if you have any questions, to please reach out to me. All right, everybody, have a great night.